Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala. I am Suman Dash Bhattamishra, Assistant Professor of Law at National Law University, Odisha. In the segment of victimology, I will be dealing with a module titled Legal Framework for Dealing with Victims in India. So let's begin the discussion. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the topic to you. In any justice delivery mechanism, the position of a victim is unique, and the state has a very significant role to play in the protection of the rights of victims. However, the emergence of this consciousness concerning the identity, rights and protection of a victim is only a very recent one. Although a victim is one who triggers a judicial process by bringing a cause of action in a court of law, legal institutions all over the world make very little provision for protecting his or her rights. On the other hand, legal systems universally make provisions for the rights of the accused and have inviolable principles for protecting the former's rights. In comparison, provisions for victims' rights are negligible and are often left to the judicial interpretation. For example, a golden rule of criminal jurisprudence is the presumption of the innocence of the accused unless his or her guilt is established beyond reasonable doubt by the prosecution. Likewise, courts have the liberty to extend the benefit of doubt to the accused on the basis of which he or she may be acquitted. In this context, it is necessary to have a legal framework for protecting the rights of victims. It is also relevant to examine the existing framework for protection of victims' rights in India. The primary reason we should talk about victims' rights is to balance the scales of justice, which also talks about rights of the accused. So, to balance out and even out the equation, it is necessary to not only have a discourse which is only one-sided by being a discourse on the rights of the accused. It can be balanced by having an equivalent discussion on the rights of victims. So, we will now talk about the definition of a victim. What are the global and domestic perspectives in defining the term victim? Any discussion on the rights of victims is incomplete without examining the meaning of the word victim. The General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Declaration of Basic Principles of Justice for Victims of Crime and Abuse of Power in the UN Victims Declaration in 1985. Although the declaration is not a legally binding document, as we all know, its adoption is considered as a historic leap in the international sphere for the protection of rights of victims. It is the first such document which entails comprehensively rights of victims and recognizes their identity in the judicial process. The most crucial contribution of the declaration is in providing a definition of the term victim. The declaration highlights the following important components in the definition of victim. First, victims are persons who have suffered harm collectively or individually. Such harm, secondly, should be the consequence of injury, loss or suffering which may be physical, mental, emotional or economic, or there should be substantial impairment of their fundamental rights. Such impairment then must be the consequence of acts or omissions that are in violation of criminal law. So, internationally, the guiding principle in the definition of a victim is the element of harm which may be suffered by persons either collectively or individually. In many domestic jurisdictions, the concept of victimhood is intricately linked with criminal law. For example, In certain countries like England, Kenya, Guatemala, the connotation of the term victim is linked with a person who suffers injury or harm resulting from violation of rights in the domain of criminal law, that is, by commission of offences by the accused. In India, there is not a comprehensive or unanimous definition of the term victim that applies uniformly in all situations. However, over a period of time, concerns for making the justice delivery mechanism more sensitive towards the legal rights and entitlements of victims have been strengthened. At this juncture, after we have defined the term victim and discussed about the international ramifications of the term, it is important now to understand what were the precursors to the growth of victims' rights in India. In India, the victim rights concept is a relatively new development. The victim rights movement has been gaining roots very gradually. The first contribution towards victims' rights was made in 1996 when the Law Commission in its 152nd and 154th reports discussed the obligation of the state to compensate the victim under various circumstances, like when the offender is untraceable but the victim is identified and the offence is proved. However, a major watershed moment in this area was when the Malimath Committee made its recommendations on reforms of the criminal justice system. Some of the important suggestions which were very important and were made by the committee in this area are important for discussion. First, victims should have a right to participate in criminal proceedings. They are entitled to adequate compensation. Secondly, they are also entitled to free legal representation wherever required. The right of victims to participate in criminal proceedings will include the right to, first, produce evidence, second, ask questions to witnesses, third, advance arguments after submissions of the prosecutor, fourth, participation in bail hearings, and fifth, to move the court to issue orders for further investigation. In order to protect victims from secondary victimization, the committee further recommended that legal services for victims would include extension of medical and psychiatric help. A victim compensation law may be drafted as a separate organized legislation to deal with various issues relating to compensation of victims. A victim compensation fund may be created for extending benefits of compensation to the victim in serious crimes. The state will have a positive obligation in such crimes to compensate victims. Apart from the above, in 2002, the National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution was set up, and that commission recommended that a greater respect for victims in criminal justice administration is necessary. An important suggestion made by the commission was that victims should have greater participation in investigative and prosecution processes and must be allowed greater participation in trial and disposition of the accused. Now, what are the legal provisions for protecting rights of victims in India? This is a very important concept. Right to compensation has been considered to be the most elementary right which is extended to victims. The Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 is the most significant document which has a bearing on the rights of victims to be compensated. Not only does this law define the term victim, it also provides under section 357 that compensation may be granted to victims under certain circumstances. Now, the section also provides that when a sentence of fine or a sentence including death sentence is imposed, the court may, at the time of delivering the judgment, order that whole or part of the fine so recovered may be utilized to offer compensation to the victim for any loss or injury which was caused by the offence, when the court opines that such compensation could be recovered by the victim in a civil court. Likewise, under this section, compensation may be awarded by the court if the victim is entitled to receive the same under the Fatal Accidents Act of 1855. The idea here is to restore the loss that may have been caused to the victim as a result of death, injury or harm resulting from the accident. However, a limitation of this section is that amount of compensation cannot exceed the amount of fine, and irrespective of the gravity of the offence, the victim is not entitled to an amount of compensation that exceeds the amount of fine for the said offence. Another significant part of section 357 lies in subsection 3. The ambit of section 357 subsection 3 is much broader because it allows the magistrate to award compensation to the victim if the accused is convicted of an offence for which no fine is imposed. However, if the conviction is for an offence for which an amount of fine is prescribed by penal law, this section will not apply. Also, this section has a rider which says that the amount of compensation received by a victim under this section may be taken into consideration by a civil court while awarding compensation in a subsequent suit. Apart from this, in the year 2008, the Criminal Law Amendment Act was passed, following which section 357A was introduced into the Code of Criminal Procedure. This amendment takes the right of victims' compensation a step further. It makes provision for a victim compensation scheme which is in the following lines. Every state government, in consultation with the central government, shall prepare a scheme for providing compensation to victims or their dependents who are in need of rehabilitation resulting from loss or injury resulting from the crime. Secondly, it also provides that at the end of the trial, the court may recommend compensation in two situations. What are those situations? Firstly, compensation may be awarded if the court is of the opinion that compensation provided under section 357 is inadequate for rehabilitation. Secondly, the victim may be compensated if the trial ends in acquittal and the court is of the opinion that it is necessary to compensate the victim. Now, the amount of compensation shall be determined by the state or district legal services committee. Application requesting compensation may be submitted to the state or district legal services authority by the victim or his dependents in such cases where it is not possible to trace or locate the offender. Under the compensation scheme, the state or district legal services authority are bound to conduct an inquiry. Not only that, they have to submit a report within 2 months and award the adequate compensation to the victim. Any amount of compensation awarded to the victim is recoverable by way of fine which is imposed on the convict. In case the convict is unable to pay the fine, the court is free to recover the amount of compensation by attaching the movable or immovable property of the convict. Likewise, under section 250 of CRPC, the magistrate has the authority to award compensation to persons who have been wrongfully implicated in proceedings by imposing fines on complainants and informants who do so without reasonable cause. Similarly, under section 358, the court has the power to order a person to compensate a person for wrongfully causing a police officer to arrest that person. The next right we will talk about is the right of the victim to be informed about investigation in cognizable offences. Under section 154 of the CRPC, if a victim or an informant provides information to the police about a cognizable offence, the police must record the statement as an FIR and provide a copy of the same to the informant. In case the police refuses to record the FIR, the informant may send a statement by mail to the relevant superintendent of police or may directly approach the appropriate magistrate. Under section 157 subsection 2, the police officer is required to notify the informant if the police refuses to investigate the case for any reason whatsoever. Now, the next important right for victims is the right to prefer appeals. Under section 374 of the CRPC, the victim has a right to prefer an appeal in a case where the accused has been acquitted or where he has been convicted for a lesser offence. Then, right to engage an advocate of choice is another important right which is extended to the victim. Under section 24 subsection 8 of the CRPC, victims have a right to engage an advocate of their choice to assist the prosecution in a case. Special laws for vulnerable victims have also been formulated in India to protect the rights of victims. So now we will go through an analysis of this segment. In India, special laws have been devised to deal with victims who are more vulnerable because of their social or economic status. Since such victims are more vulnerable than others, ordinary legal provisions are not sufficient to meet their requirements. In this category are women, children, marginalized sections, scheduled castes, tribes, as well as old people for whom triggering the ordinary judicial process is much more difficult because of their social disabilities. Thus, special laws are enacted to ensure an extra shield of protection so that such victims may find it more convenient to deal with their social handicaps. Few special laws that deal with special categories of victims have been discussed here. Now to give you a broader understanding of the legal regime which is existing in India to protect victims' rights. So let us first see and take a look at the PWDVA, or the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. This is a special legislation that was enacted for the purpose of providing a plethora of rights to women who are victims of domestic violence. It's a dynamic legislation. It's dynamic because it defines domestic violence in a very broad way. Domestic violence has been defined here as any form of violence which is physical, mental, emotional, verbal or sexual. For the implementation of the law, designated persons known as protection officers are appointed. Under the PWDVA, women have protection against denial of facilities that they were used to by virtue of their marriage. Women cannot even be denied access to shared household. Likewise, the Act also makes provisions for compensation to women who are victims of domestic violence. A victim of domestic violence has access to several remedies under this law like protection orders, monetary relief, custody orders, compensation orders, residence orders. Apart from protection officers, designated organizations are listed as service providers, and service providers perform the very important function of disseminating information and offering legal advice to victims of domestic violence. A salient feature of PWDVA is that it is a progressive law, which can apply to women who are victims of domestic violence even in live-in relationships. A protection officer who refuses to perform the duties under the PWDVA can be punished with rigorous imprisonment. This may extend to 1 year, and this person is also liable for fine. Then we have the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act of 1989. The purpose of this act and its objective was to punish caste-based discrimination and atrocities. A very important feature of the act is that under it, awarding compensation to victims is mandatory. Depending on the gravity of the offence, victims are entitled to receive compensation ranging from 20,000 rupees to 25,000 rupees. Then we have the very special legislation of POCSO. Children comprise a very vulnerable group of victims in society, especially in the context of sexual offences. The tenderness of their age, lack of physical, mental, emotional maturity makes them vulnerable to sexual offences. To prevent victimization of children and provide strict punishment to them, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences or POCSO Act was passed in 2012. The Indian judiciary also played a very important role in protecting rights of victims. So now let us take a look at Indian judiciary and rights of victims. A limited legal framework for victims made it an onerous responsibility for the Indian judiciary to protect the rights of victims. In fact, in India, the Supreme Court has played an important role in protecting and respecting the rights of victims. The affirmative action of the Supreme Court and High Courts has played a significant role in elevating the rights of victims. These judgments have touched victims of a wide range of offences. In a series of cases from 1982 to 1996 and onwards, the Supreme Court of India has emphasized on the concept of restitution and restoration of victims. For this purpose, the court has enhanced the quantum of compensation awarded to the victims in these cases. The landmark judgments which have advocated dispensation of restorative justice are Sukhdev Singh versus State of Punjab 1982, Balraj versus State of UP 1994, Gyaniram versus State of Haryana AIR 1995, and Baldev Singh versus State of Punjab AIR 1996. Likewise, the Supreme Court has also emphasized on special assistance and protection to be extended to victims of heinous offences like rape. In Bodhisatta's case, which is a very famous one, the Supreme Court laid down extensive guidelines for dealing with victims of rape. Among other things, it emphasized on the maintenance of anonymity of rape victims and extension of counseling and medical care. Likewise, the Supreme Court in Rudal Shah's case emphasized on compensating victims of abuse of power by authorities. An additional compensation of 30,000 rupees was awarded to the victim for illegal incarceration. Likewise, in Nilabati Behra's case, the Supreme Court ordered compensation to dispense complete justice in a case of custodial violence resulting in the death of the victim. So we discussed the wide legal regime in relation to victims' rights in India. The regime is not really wide, but it is what we have at minimal levels for victims in India. The discussion is relevant so that we can know what else we need to add, so that we can also find out what position the victim must have in the Indian legal system. So as to conclude, victims in India have very limited rights. They are still striving for the recognition of their identity in the justice delivery mechanism. A victim of various offences suffers from serious handicaps. while some remedies exist only on paper, the reality is harsher than the fact that their rights are limited. Interaction of victims with existing police and investigative processes is a matter of very serious concern for us. Further, the fact that they play a pivotal role in prosecution necessarily enhances the standard of proof required from them. The higher standard of proof and the requirement to prove their cases beyond reasonable doubt tilts the scales of justice in favor of the accused. Justice is served best in a state of balance, and the same can be accomplished by creating a legal regime that exhaustively captures the rights of victims by allowing them an active participation in criminal proceedings. It is important for us to bear in mind that rights of the accused have been elaborately discussed. They are being deliberated upon every passing day. But so far as the victim is concerned, he or she is almost invisible in the legal mechanism, particularly in the context of India. Many statements have been made regarding why victim rights are not being protected and why the government suffers from an incapacity in creating a regime. Sometimes arguments advanced are economic. On other occasions, the rights of victims are taken for a right. So under these circumstances, it is necessary for us to have a very balanced approach by integrating integral rights of victims in the legal regime. I would now like to summarize the topic for you. Firstly, we discussed about provisions for protection of rights of victims globally as well as in India. In India, victims' rights have been made available primarily in the Indian Constitution and the Code of Criminal Procedure. A major amendment was made to the Code of Criminal Procedure in the year 2008, following which Section 357 capital A was inserted. The UN Victims Declaration was adopted in the year 1985, which exhaustively recognizes the rights of victims. A very significant aspect of rights of victims is their right to be compensated. Various laws have been adopted in India to deal specially with more vulnerable victims like women and children. The Supreme Court, by affirmative judicial pronouncements, has also contributed significantly to the rights of victims. Restorative justice is the ultimate goal of victims' protection schemes in India and worldwide. Victims need additional laws to further protect themselves in India. Provisions may be made in India to deal with rights of victims by permitting their participation in criminal proceedings. A procedure in the lines of victim impact statement has to be adopted in India to allow courts to take the opinion of the victim at the stage of sentencing the accused. This is all for today. Thank you. Bye.